Because I've had a hard day. And we'll have another hard one tomorrow. Giggity.
At least you didn't have to watch 5.5 hours of movie today.
For what reason would I need to watch 5.5 hours of movie today? Would it be for a brand new episode of Soon to Be a Major Motion Podcast? The podcast where we read books that are turned into movies and watch movies that are based on books with me, Billy Beck?
And me, Cody Beck?
Could it be for that reason?
Yes.
Well, I didn't do it today.
You did it over the last couple of days.
I had to. For you, our dear listeners, the pain I put myself... Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Cody, how have you been?
It's been fine. Everything's great.
Everything's peachy?
Yeah, I really have no updates. Everything continues to solder on.
Solder?
Yeah, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to say meander or soldier, and it kind of just became one word.
It's like you're mispronouncing... mispronouncing.
You have watched the movie.
Well, me not knowing how to pronounce words is funnier than the joke I was going to make, so that's where it lands. Soldiering on, my dear.
Yes. How about you?
The fucking Philadelphia Union.
I was going to say, are we going to get a rant?
0-5 in league play. Not a single point to be gathered. And because we were the best regular season record last season, we're in the Champions Cup. And we coasted through the first round of that, and then weirdly had hope in the second round, but you got knocked out by Club America in Mexico, which sucked. But our Angel City Football Club, currently top of the league at time of recording, with a game to play tomorrow to extend that gap.
Hopefully.
So that's good.
Yes.
I'm enjoying that. And City won a cup over Arsenal, which was delicious. And that is Billy's football updates.
Well, it's been a nice recording. We'll see you next week.
Oh, honey. No. My margarita that I made myself for this recording is a nice shade of green. As is your shirt. And shorts. And most of your wardrobe.
Listen, okay, I like what I like. Don't judge me. Don't laugh at me because I say I didn't want to buy a pair of sneakers because they wouldn't match my wardrobe because they were green.
You brought it up, not me. And you did buy those sneakers.
I did. You were correct.
So I feel like, considering the amount of green... Oh my god, everything in this apartment is green. That box... Toby's fucking shredded paper box is green.
I like green, and I buy most of the decor.
Our not-for-recycling bin happens to be green. There's a green umbrella hanging next to it.
They are both teal.
Their treats toy is green.
Well, I didn't choose that. That's because it's a leaf.
Pillowcases, the drapes.
Okay, the pillowcases are blue.
The pillowcase inside that pillowcase that's getting ripped is green. Everything is green.
We get it. I like green.
Green her house with her green little windows and her green Corvette. And everyone she sees is just green like her.
Are you just quoting from the song Blue?
I'm green, da-ba-dee-da. Yes.
So why are you bringing up my sartorial and decorial choices?
So recently, like in the past couple of weeks, I've been seeing a lot of advertisements for a film that is... Hey, it's the little things that are going to get me through this one. That has been released on streaming, finally. And it's a big event. And that film is 2025's Wicked for Good. And I thought, hey, that movie that stars a green character, there's the tie. That movie is the second of two movies that are based on a book. Well, kind of. The book is credited in the credits, so it fucking counts. Counts more than The Aviator did, technically.
Well, that's because I read the wrong book because you hate me.
No, the Wikipedia said that was the book you were supposed to read. The film credits had a different title. Whole nother story. So I thought, since we just did, 3.5 hours so far on The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Why not wrap up our little season and cover the prequel, Wicked, which is based on the book Wicked with a subtitle, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire.
Indeed.
So, before we get into details of this, Cody, how did you first come to know Wicked?
So, we have brought to attention multiple times that you and I both went to theater school. I didn't really have an interest in theater until high school, and it became an interest of mine because I had to pick an elective my freshman year of high school, and my friends were all taking theater study. And one of the benefits of taking theater study was that you got the opportunity first, before other students, to join the yearly trip that they would make to Broadway, and they would take you to see a musical. So the year that I was in theater study, I did not do it. And I honestly don't even remember what the musical was. But my sophomore year, they went to see Wicked. I knew nothing about it. I had seen the poster, and I knew that it was like this, from the way that people were talking around me, I knew it was like this big buzzy show. This was my first Broadway production that I had ever seen, and it set a pretty high bar. And so that was my introduction. And I found out at some point it was based on a novel. And at some point in high school, I read the novel and I went, oh, this is very different. Which I believe is what we would refer to as a canon event. But yeah, that was my introduction to Wicked. And you, William?
So, I've brought up my older sister before. In fact, on the last episode. She's 2 years older than me. And she did musical theater in high school. And loved it, loved the songs and all of that. To the point where, I'm not sure if I told this story on the pod before, but my freshman year of high school, her junior year, we did The Music Man. And I was explicitly told by my parents I was not allowed to audition. Because it was her thing, not my thing. I would have been a fucking killer Winthrop at the time. But no. Wasn't allowed to audition until my junior year when she had graduated. But that being said, I also actually saw my first Broadway play as well with my high school theater, and it was previews of Legally Blonde.
Nice.
Which was great. But I digress. Regardless, my sister and I, basically from when she left for college till I graduated college, essentially, a lot of our time spent in the car together was listening to musicals. Rent was a big soundtrack in the car. Music Man was for a bit, for, obvious reasons. But one that she would listen to a lot was Wicked. And she and my mom took a bus trip to New York, a day trip to see it one time. I was not invited.
It was a girls' trip.
That, or I had I might have had something to do that weekend in college. Just wasn't invited. And they went to go see Wicked. And my sister, fell in love with it and had the soundtrack and all that. And a lot of my exposure to it was from, spending time around her and listening to it in the car. And at that time in my life, when I was getting more involved in theater, I didn't gravitate to it much myself because most of the roles in that musical are roles I would never play. So I stuck with, I kept Rent in my personal rotation, and I added stuff like Tick, Tick, Boom and Assassins and things with roles I could conceivably play in the future. Please, somebody, I will still play the balladeer. I can do it. I promise I can do it. I'm a bit too old for the characters in Rent now. I could probably still pull off What's-His-Face and Company, or I could probably actually still do Tick, Tick, Boom.
You're the age of Bobby and Company. I think by the end he's 36.
Oh, yeah. It's Tick, Tick, Boom, he's 30.
Yeah.
I could still do it. I promise I could still do it. Anyway. So I always knew the music of Wicked, but I never saw the show, read brief plots, and I maybe read the plot synopsis once, 20 years ago. But
you also only listened up to the act break.
I would listen up to Defying Gravity because, let's face it, it's the best song on the album. And after that, there's a lot of short reprises, and that just didn't interest me.
I Will Die on the Hill, that Let It Go is just a version of Defying Gravity that they knew Adina could sing.
I watched that Oscars performance.
No, that was Adele Dazeem.
No, Adele Dazeem is the character that Idina Menzel played in Wicked.
Is it actually?
I don't know, but that would be really... You know, let me fact check my joke here.
Because that would 100% be the kind of joke these fucking stuffy theater people would make.
It absolutely would be. No, Wizomania Superstar is her name.
Ah, okay.
Same as Kristen Chenoweth. But I digress. So I've always kind of known the musical existed, and it had this big hype around it, but all the things I said, plus whenever something has hype around it, I kind of take a step back from it, just because of who I am as a person.
Unbearable.
You've been bearing for 16 years, dear.
You have gotten better, I will say.
Keep bearing, motherfucker, because I'm about to get worse.
No, but the thing is, I agree with you.
Yeah, so it had all this hype, and I just kind of never really went to go see it. All my future Broadway trips involve things like Avenue Q, the Chorus Line revival, stuff like that. So, what was the one about the Four Seasons? Jersey Boys. Saw Jersey Boys with my mom. She had no idea what it was about, and got really uncomfortable during the sex and the language.
We were supposed to go see Hamilton in June of 2020.
Oh yeah, what happened in June of 2020 that made it that we couldn't go?
Well, it didn't happen in June, but...
I mean, there was a lot happening in June of 2020 that kept us in the house.
Fair.
Yeah, never read it, never saw it. Had no desire to see the movies when they were coming out because of marketing reasons, actually. Like, the climax of the movie being also the last bit of every trailer and TV spot I saw made me think, I don't need to go see this movie. Yeah. So I didn't. Until Tuesday, when you made me do this.
I didn't make you do shit.
I know, I made me do this.
Yes, you did.
I made me do this.
So, do you want to talk briefly about the book and the movie, or the book and the musical before we move into the trailer?
Only, I guess if there's something like specific about the book's publication you want to say, but I didn't intend to talk about the musical much beyond this point anyway.
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to say is that this is actually the first of 4 books in what is called the Wicked Years, and it essentially spans the life of the Wicked Witch of the West, her son, and eventually into some deeper Oz mythology. The first book is about, obviously, Elphaba Throp, the Wicked Witch of the West. The second book is about her son, maybe. She's never totally sure. The third book is The Cowardly Lion. And the fourth book is her granddaughter. And Glinda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the first book at least.
Yeah.
Some dude named Steven Schwartz did the, I think he just did he do music and lyrics? I don't think he did the book, but I know he did music and lyrics.
I believe he did music and lyrics. Oh, that was what I wanted to say. The second book was actually dedicated to the cast of the musical.
Oh.
Yeah. So first book came out in 95, second book came out in 2003 or 4.
Sorry, Steven Schwartz and Winnie Holzman.
Oh. She was involved in the musical, or in the movies.
Yeah. So was Schwartz, because it was the music. They had to be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just getting the,
I think Winnie she probably did the book, and Schwartzman did... Not Schwartzman, Jesus Christ. Schwartz did the music and lyrics, I believe.
So the second book is called Son of a Witch, and it came out in September of 2005. A Lion Among Men is the third book that came out in October 2008, and Out of Oz came out in November 2011.
Okay. Really hopping on that hype train from the success of the musical, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing hopping on that hype train is the aforementioned trailer. Cody, shall we watch a trailer?
Must we? I feel like we've seen it 1,000 times.
Unfortunately, we must. Cody, let's watch 2 trailers?
Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? You're green.
I am. Welcome, new students, to Shiz University, Miss Elphaba. You can room with Miss Galinda.
Popular. I know about Oh, I saved you some space, by the way.
Do you really think this is fair?
I do not. I was promised a private suite. But thanks for asking.
Please, everyone take your seats. In today's Oz, a real sorcerer who possesses true magic has become all too rare.
Absolutely remarkable.
That was you who made all that happen. How did you do it?
I don't know. I've never known.
You, come with me.
Of course.
Not you. You. You're the one the wizard has been waiting for.
Glinda?
Ew.
I know. It's my granny's. I'd give it away, but I don't hate anyone that much.
Hey.
You should join us tonight. And don't tell me you have nothing to wear. Because you could wear this.
Something has changed within me.
She doesn't give a twink what anyone thinks.
Something is not the same.
Of course she does. She just pretends not to.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz summons you to the Emerald City. Come with me.
What?
To meet the wizard.
I couldn't possibly. This is your moment. I'm coming.
The great and terrible.
Something bad is happening in Oz.
The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
You have no real power.
That's why I need you.
Don't let her get away! This wicked witch.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
Alpha Withrop, I know you're out here. Just come in before the monkeys spot you.
There's no going back. This is between us, the wizard and I.
The Wicked Witch can't elude us forever. Not with Prince Fiero and his squadron hot on her trail.
No good deed goes unpunished. That's my creed.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. No one believed in you more than I did.
Alphaba. They're coming for you.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason. I know I'm who I am today because I knew you.
Think of what we could do. Together.
Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun. Like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant world. Who can say if I haven't changed for the better?
Bring me the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West.
For a while there, I thought you changed.
I have changed.
time. For both of us. To fly!
Because I knew you.
You're the only friend I ever had.
Because I knew you.
And I've had so many friends.
I have been changed for good.
But only one that mattered.
I'm off to see the wizard.
So before we really get into it, I want to tackle this one a little differently than we normally do. And I think it's because there's levels of discussion we can have. And I think I want to start with the story itself in its own context, nothing else. So remove it from it being a movie, a musical, a book. Remove it from even the context of the previous iterations of The Wizard of Oz and our last 5 hours of podcast that we did. Let's just talk about the story itself and what works, what doesn't work, what it's saying, and I guess also what's different, because I know there's going to be some differences.
So break it down to the bare bone tropes.
Let's treatment this shit. Let's take it down to bare bones.
All right. So what is the skeleton of this story?
And I guess the barest bones it is, I mean, it's a fascist regime is doing a fascism, and someone finds out and becomes enemy of the state #1 because she's outspoken enough to point out the bad that the government is doing. Like, that's kind of the bare bone, at least the part 1, and then part 2 is...
It's the Chosen One story.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a quest.
Yeah.
But when she gets to the quest giver, it's, oh no, the new quest is getting rid of this fucker.
I think the literary term for the type of novel that Wicked is considered revisionist literature.
Okay.
Because it's taking an existing story and telling it from a different angle.
Yeah. Which, if you would like to listen to our most recent episode of The Treatment on King Midas, we basically went and did that.
We sure did.
We told the story of King Midas from the... Oh no, that's not our most recent. That's our next episode of The Treatment is King Midas from the perspective of his daughter.
Yeah.
Basically the same idea.
Yeah.
So getting into some more details. This is a story that takes place in the magical land of Oz, a very rectangular nation state surrounded by desert.
I am breaking out the copy of the book that I have next to me to show Bill the map that is drawn for Wicked. And it is essentially a really, really rounded down version of the US map.
Oh, yeah, just shave them nubs off.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So we're in Winky country.
Yeah.
And our protagonist is Elphaba Throp.
Throp.
I'm sorry, it's all made up. Elphaba Throp, the, most wieldly name, is born green and magical, hated by her father, has a younger sister who is loved by her father but is crippled by her father's actions. And they're off to school to learn, and she gets invited to stay at school because she is a very powerful sorceress. There she meets Galinda. Upland?
She has a lot of titles. She's Galinda of the Archduennas.
Okay, she had a like an upper class sounding last name, like literally had the word up in it in the film.
Yes.
I don't recall. She meets Galinda, who desperately wants to be a sorcerer and has no magic in her fucking body. And they immediately start off as rivals and roommates because, you gotta have some tension there. And one night at not a student event, but all the students go to a local underground club. And Galinda invites Elphaba and gives her an ugly hat to wear and some ugly robes to wear. And she shows up and everyone laughs at her. And in a show of defiance, Elphaba dances a little dance. And Galinda is moved and also feels guilted by her actions leading to this total embarrassment that she joins in the dance and they become close friends for like 3 whole weeks. Elphaba is later invited to meet the Wizard of Oz. The wizard who is the, I guess he's the ruler, technically?
Yes.
With the blessing of her instructor, Miss Morrible. Surely her name rhyming with horrible is not a sign of things to come. So she goes with Galinda to meet the wizard, and learns that he is, in fact, a fraud, doesn't know any magic, is a, what's that Gandalf line from Lord of the Rings? I am not some conjurer of cheap tricks. Well, the wizard is. He sure is a conjurer of cheap tricks. He pulls, I think his introduction is pulling a quarter out from behind her ear.
He is, yes. Or it is, yes.
And he's like, man, with someone who can actually do shit like you, we can get some things done here in Oz. Meanwhile, while all this is happening in the background, there are animals with a capital A who walk and talk and are a part of society. But since the Great Drought, which is never expressed upon further, or is it?
The drought, yes, the drought is a part of the novel. It is the method by which the wizard comes to power and eventually declares himself emperor.
Okay, so the guy from the Midwest wanted to... Sorry, out of context of the other stuff. Oh no, he's from Omaha in this. It's in context. So the guy from the Midwest. Yeah. So, since the Great Drought, animals have begun to lose the capacity to speak. And when Elphaba goes to meet the wizard, she finds out that he is behind all of this. And he's also pulling a Judge Doom in replacing a, wonderful rail line with roads. Specifically one made of yellow brick, which Elphaba helps decide the color. That's all she has a part of that weird little scene. But yeah, she finds out he's behind the animals disappearing and feels affronted by that because she has a kinship with the animals, because she's also a social outcast because of the color of her skin. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's the plot. So she... How does she turn fucking evil again? Not evil, but what does she do that makes them call her evil?
She steals...
She they let her read from the book of magic that does magic, and she gives all the monkeys wings. And it's real painful for them, and she feels guilty about that, and then realizes that everything's a fuck and steals the book and runs off. And Galinda, who changes her name to Glinda, she takes the G out of it in, what's the word I'm looking for? In solidarity with Dr. Dillinger, what's his fucking name?
Dillamond.
Dr. Dillamond, the goat history professor, who had a racism done to him in class one day.
Does he appear again?
Yeah, a couple of times.
And he can still talk?
I don't think he can talk when he appears later, after he gets disappeared, after he gets fired. Because he has the one day in class where he flips the chalkboard and it says animals should be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
And then cancels class. And then there's another class and he's like, this will be my last day. And that's when they bring the lion in the cage and they shovel him off. And then she sees him again at the wizard's place when she finds more caged animals after she releases the flying monkeys. But before that, she takes the book and tries to escape and gives herself the power of flight through a broomstick because she doesn't quite know how the book works. And Galinda's like, I got your back, but you gotta do it your way and I gotta do it my way. And Elphaba flies off. She becomes enemy of the state. Big propagandist posters are hung with her face on it. They call her the Wicked Witch. And she does a lot of for lack of a better term, eco-terrorism? Trying to rescue animals. She does a lot of Animal Liberation Front. No, I think they were more violent. I can't remember.
To quote from something very bad.
Was Spew Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
No, Spew is Harry Potter.
Oh, fuck. What was the one in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? I know Jay gets on camera and calls the group the Clit.
Yes.
But they, bust animals out of labs. That kind of thing. It's very that. With, a lot of Holocaust imagery, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We didn't talk about Fiyero, who is a prince who goes to the school they go to, and he's going to marry Galinda, but he actually loves Elphaba, and she loves him, and he helps her free some animals, and she almost gets caught by the guards, and at some point she goes back to the wizard's place and is like, yeah, I'm going to expose you for a fraud, unless you do what I say. First, free these monkeys, and they free the monkeys, so that's why they're subservient to her. Has nothing to do with a magic hat, or slavery, or, I'm sorry, getting off topic again. And Morrible, in an attempt to bring her down, summons a cyclone, which brings a girl from Kansas in, who is used as a pawn to kill the witch. She's ordered by the wizard to kill the witch and bring back her broomstick. And she does by melting her, by throwing water on her, and brings back the broomstick. And Glinda, knowing everything that had happened, convinces the wizard, hey, I know you're a fraud and you're fucked here. You need to leave forever. And she gets him to get in the balloon and go away. And somehow Dorothy gets back to Kansas. It's kind of hand-waved over. And Glinda, tells all the people that they're free of the fear of the Wicked Witch of the West. And it turns out she actually hid under a trapdoor and didn't melt to death. And she and Fiyero live happily ever after. The end. Cody, what's different in the book?
Oh God, so much.
Please explain. I've talked a lot.
So, the book is divided into 5 sections. I'm just going to read you the different subtitles of the sections. So, you've got Prologue on the Yellow Brick Road, which is, as it sounds, it's the witch spying on them on the Yellow Brick Road.
Okay.
You've got Munchkinlanders, which is...
spying on them being Dorothy and the crew? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
You've got Section 1, which is Munchkinlanders, which is basically explaining how Oz is before the wizard arrives, and it's essentially Elphaba's birth and early childhood. You've got Section 2, Gillikin, which is about their first couple of years at Shiz. You've got the City of Emeralds, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's when they go to see the wizard to convince him about animal rights. And then that fails, so she becomes a terrorist in the city, eventually having an affair with Fiyero and getting him killed. Section 4 is in the Vincus, which is where she lives with with Fiero's wife and her child.
Who?
So, Fiyero is married when he's introduced. He had an arranged marriage with a princess in the Winky country, in the Vincus. So he has 3 children with her by the time that he and Elphaba start having an affair.
Carry on.
And then Section 5 is the murder and its afterlife.
Okay.
The book is extremely dark. It is definitely written for adults. It is not written... I wouldn't even say it's written for teenagers. It is solidly aimed at adults. There is fucking in the first, 2 chapters. Her dad is a preacher who gets his shit rocked by a new TikTok clock of the time dragon faith.
TikTok the app?
No, TikTok as in, that's what they call mechanical creatures.
Oh.
The Great Drought has been on for a while. Her dad is a fanatical preacher. Her mom is cheating on him with a quadling, and that's probably why Nessa Rose is born with no arms.
No, I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, so in the book, Nessa Rose has no arms. That's her disability.
Okay.
Elphaba's born green, probably because her mom was doing too many drugs, or her mom...
was fucking the Wizard of Oz.
So, the wizard doesn't appear until Elphaba's 2 years old. So it's probably not him, but it's strongly implied that he's not the first Outlander that has appeared there.
I was gonna say, because they make it explicit that, someone from our world and someone from theirs fucked, and that's why she's magic.
Yes, that is why she's magical. It's why she has the ability to read the Grimoire and do magic, even though she doesn't know that until...
Fucking Grimoire. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's what they call it.
I know, but it...
It's a corruption of grimoire.
I know.
Intentionally.
I know.
A lot of the things that are really annoying about the way they speak are basically just intentionally taken from the book, divorced of context.
Yeah, you know what's funny? They could have stopped at the word annoying and then not done it. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself again.
Yeah, and obviously, the biggest difference is that the book takes place over a span of a lifetime. Literally her entire life.
So did the movies, am I right?
And of course, she has a child. She has here's the thing. She basically goes into a dissociative state for 7 years and lives at a nunnery, but they just give her a child.
Is this before or after she fakes her death?
This is before.
Okay.
She does not fake her death in the book. She is definitely dead. The author makes blatantly clear that she is allergic to water throughout the entire story, and it is a thing that she is aware of and avoids. I don't know why she's allergic to water. I don't think it's important, but I don't think the reason is important, but what is important is that he establishes from the fucking point of her birth that she has an aversion to water.
Okay. So she's born with rabies.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. And she actually dies.
Yes. She is not in any future books.
Cool. Okay.
You're also in her head when she dies.
So some big differences.
Yeah. And, Fiero's also dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
He doesn't get turned into a scarecrow?
No, the Scarecrow's a completely different character.
Okay, and, Nessa's, boyfriend, Bach, the Munchkin, does he get turned into a Tin Man?
No, he is a completely different character. He's actually in the original Wizard of Oz. He's, governor of Munchkin Land, I think.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah. There's actually a really funny segment when Fiero and Elphaba first, renew their acquaintance, where he marries Shen, which is one of the, high society women, and takes her back to Munchkinland with him, and Fiero describes reading their yearly letters that they get around their equivalent of Christmas that detail all of her suicide attempts.
That actually sounds like fun. I feel like I would enjoy that book more than I enjoyed the movie.
You absolutely would, but also there's a lot of weird sex in it.
Good.
Good.
I don't want to say that Gregory Maguire is a furry, but it's kind of hard to talk about talking animals and not have there be some weird shit happening in the background.
Are there green titties?
Yes, a lot.
Does the carpet match the drapes?
He does Fiero does point out that it's different than his wife's. Also, she might be intersex.
Just hanging a massive clit.
So, when she's first born, when they're cleaning her, they have a moment of confusion where they're not sure whether it's a boy or a girl, and then they're like, oh no, it's definitely a girl. And then later, after she and Fiero bone, at one of the many times where they have this relationship,
He gets pregnant?
No.
Oh. Like a seahorse.
He's actually supposed to be covered in blue diamonds, his skin is tattooed with diamonds, and he thinks that maybe one of his diamonds got fused to her because there's a weird shadow, but when he tries to look at it, she stops him. So maybe she's intersex.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good for her.
There's a lot of the theme of the book is predestination and nature versus nurture and what is the root of evil. And also at the same time, it's also about you get to decide who and what you are. One of the early chapters right after Elphaba is born, when they're trying to figure out why she's green, the nanny character, who's essentially the grandmother to her mom.
Is that the bear nanny?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Her nanny, when she's growing up, is a bear. A brown bear.
No, she's a person.
Okay.
She basically privately is her father's a fanatic preacher. Her mom is on too many drugs for us to give a shit. And also really wanted it to be a boy. Really wanted the baby to be a boy. So Nanny basically has this whole thought process where she's like, you know what? Maybe Elphaba decided to be a girl and decided to be green. Basically just to be fuck both of you.
Good for her.
Yeah, and that's a thing that you come back to over and over again is you get to choose who you are.
Which feels really similar to one of the themes that we pulled out of one of the adaptations of The Wizard of Oz, which was that, you are not who other people say you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
You can determine your own reality instead of letting other people do it for you.
So I actually have a quote. When she leaves the nunnery and is traveling with maybe her child to maybe her baby daddy's house, they're having a conversation on the road as they're traveling, and the woman who's leading the caravan basically summarizes the entire book. Surely there's a handful of the nursery Märchen that start, once in the middle of the forest lived an old witch, or that the devil was out walking one day and met a child. To the grim poor, there need no be pourquoi tale about where evil arises. It just arises. It always is. One never learns how the witch became wicked or whether that was the right choice for her. Is it ever the right choice? Does the devil ever struggle to be good again? Or if so, is he not a devil? It is at the very least a question of definitions.
Which reminds me of an old adage. Goes something like, if they win, they're revolutionaries, and if they lose, they're terrorists.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing, which... Let's start expanding the context with which we're talking about this now. And I want to expand to when all this came out. So that first one came out, the book came out in, 1995?
95, yes.
So, I mean, we were both alive then. You probably don't remember much, because I certainly don't.
Nope.
But a big thing in the 90s was, like, it was a time of relative peace. Like, the Cold War had ended, the Berlin Wall had fallen. The Soviet Union was broken up into its independent, new nations and whatnot. And America was not at war. And there were obviously conflicts in the 90s. I'm not going to say there weren't. But a big thing in the States, which I'm pretty sure he was American. Yeah. It's a very American story.
Yes.
Was like, what next? And something that was happening in the 90s was that kind of like eco-terrorism. This was the era of dudes living up in redwood trees to prevent people from cutting them down, and people breaking into labs to bust the animals out that were being tested on. And like a lot of what was described at the time as terrorism was happening for the betterment of the planet, as opposed to just the betterment of people. And I definitely see a parallel with the story with the animals here and that part of American history.
It's also a very clever narrative device to have a character with different colored skin who is a social outcast, but you also have the idea of talking animals who are, literally different species. But what Gregory Maguire does really well is he creates a universe where people have their petty differences. And it's something that you see with Galinda when she's first introduced. She judges everyone else by where they're from, and she talks about how proud she is to be Gillicanese. And you have, like, Elphaba, who grew up in Munchkin Land and then went to Quadling Country, which is considered basically like the equivalent of going to Africa. And
subtle.
Yeah. You have the kind of micro grievances, which are like, I would say, like, oh, how citizens of Burbank judge citizens of Glendale, judge citizens of LA, like that kind of vibe. Yeah. But you expand that to an entire country, and essentially what you kind of see is all of the vitriol and hatred being distilled down until, like it says in the movie, you give them an enemy, and that enemy is the talking animals. Yeah. And so you kind of filter all that hatred down into just a single entity.
And like in the 90s, that enemy was drugs.
Yes.
Or gang violence. Yeah. Like this, or eventually, when the musical came out in 2003, the enemy was terrorism.
Yes.
Because the musical came out in 2003, which was 2 years after... something happened in September of 2001 that was really culturally important. Jay-Z's The Blueprint album came out. And also, the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. And you and I both remember the States at that time. I was a little bit older than you. I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of jingoistic attitudes and a lot of racism against Arab Americans. And I can't help but assume that this musical was produced when it was, using the animals as a metaphor for Arab Americans. Because a few weeks ago, they were part of our society. They were teachers. They were doctors. They were, people you interacted with. And then something happens, which is never touched upon in the film. So I'm not sure what. Is the Great Drought blamed on an animal or something?
No. Basically, the wizard has spent all of Elphaba's life slowly instituting laws restricting the movement and actions and capacity of animals. Oh boy, what does that sound like?
Yeah, so in 2003.
Essentially what happened, what's the inciting incident in the Gillikin section is he passes a law that forbids them from traveling on trains.
Okay. Yeah, so that kind of thing was happening in 2003 in the States. And it was pushed by people with racist attitudes or ulterior motives. The common theory of Dick Cheney wanting to start a war in the Middle East and waiting for an excuse. And there's that whole evangelical belief of, well, that's a little bit different. But war in the Middle East will lead to the rapture and, the the millennium and all that.
Well, it didn't fucking work, did it? There was supposed to be another one.
They're still trying. They're still trying, Cody.
We have a war in the Middle East right now.
Yeah, like, I think it was explicitly stated for this purpose of bringing forth the rapture.
Which was supposed to be March 22nd. Didn't fucking work, now did it?
Yeah, what's funny is if you actually read the Bible, I believe the words are, no one can know the time of my return.
But also...
So everyone who claims to know is automatically wrong?
But also the rapture was, like, invented in the 1800s.
Like, well... I'm not going to get into a theological debate right now. Not going to do it. Not going to fall trap. But yeah, in 2003, there was a lot of that going on. So I assume those parallels were, you know, at the front of thought for this musical adaptation they did, which also softened a lot of the harder elements of it. And that, I think, is just to get, you know, kids in the door.
Yeah, this
straight
is
up.
definitely
You can't do, like, oh, it's a Wizard of Oz, but from a different angle, and not let, you know, this little girl who dresses as Dorothy every week into the fucking theater.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that Dorothy is never really seen as a villain or a monster, even by...
She's just a pawn of Morable's fascist shadow regime.
Yeah.
That's all she is.
Yeah. And even Elphaba sees that.
Yeah. And I think that's... I appreciate that. I think there's only one shot where you see Dorothy's face, and it's a panning shot, so you can't really, like, click on it.
Yeah.
She's mostly in half the fucking cast is in silhouette, half the movie. That's a different point. She's like either in silhouette or from the neck down. But when the movie came out, going back to the cultural context of the time, was 2024 and 2025. Now, do you see any parallels in current day?
I'm just remembering specifically, I believe it was November of 2024.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, you know, like a leader putting forth very dictatorial edicts to remove a segment of the population that is deemed unworthy for reasons that make no sense, because they have been parts of these communities where we live for longer than this has been this country.
And, you know, having secret police.
Yeah, secret police. Spies. What's that Ray McMahon line? 3 wise illegals apprehended by Palantir for smuggling incense and myrrh.
Uh-huh.
Or frankincense and myrrh. Yeah, God King Google's a banger. So yeah, like, all 3 releases, so to speak, have had different yet apt cultural relevance for the story being told.
Yeah. I also think that this... I know the book came out in 95, but it really feels like it was on the forefront of the type of revisionist literature that we would start seeing later. Like, a lot of the stuff that I read growing up was about, like, redeeming villains and, like, from the point of view of the villain. Because you can only tell a Cinderella story so many times before you start asking questions about the stepsisters. Mm-hmm. Even Disney had fucking sequels that were about from the point of view of the stepsisters.
And I think a lot of that started, and this is going to sound crazy, started back in Vietnam. Because for years, like, the American way was the right way, and everyone, like, not everyone agreed to it. Everyone white who was in charge agreed to it. And Vietnam happened, and all of a sudden it's like, why were we there? Why were we bombing Cambodia illegally? Why was, like, our government doing these arms deals? And, like, those emerald-tinted glasses were, you know, shattered. And, like, perspectives of Americans on their leaders were changed. And then going into the 90s, and we get this revisionist literature into the 2000s, 2010s, when you get, like, think pieces online of, like, Ursula just had the Little Mermaid sign a contract. They're, like, maybe she shouldn't have been allowed to, because she wasn't legally an adult, but that's the only thing Ursula did wrong.
I'm thinking even Iron Man.
Yeah. Like, when you get to 2008 and Iron Man, and he recognizes that, oh, my bombs are going to kill me if I don't do something about this. Like,
a bomb that has literally got my name on it.
Yeah, like, that kind of challenging of authority started happening, which wasn't really present in the 30s as much, or the 1900s as much, at least not in popular culture.
Because there's a lot. We also, in between, you know, like 95, 2003, and later, and current, we got the internet.
Yeah.
And now...
people started talking to each other.
Yeah.
And learning different perspectives on things. Yeah. The concept of 2 Americas that Black Americans have spoken of for decades has only like recently gotten into the zeitgeist. We were watching Jeopardy today.
Yeah.
An old episode, so this isn't a spoiler. And one of the clues was about Lift Up Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem.
Yeah.
And the three honkies on stage couldn't get the clue right. But we're both like, well, I also like messed up the title, but I knew the song. And we both were like, oh man, I know this one. This feels easy. But it's because of the uprisings in 2020 against police brutality that we kind of opened our eyes and, for lack of a better term, woke up to the truth that is there are two Americas, one for white Americans and one for black Americans.
We've literally been in sports stadiums where that's been played instead of the anthem.
Yes, but only for one game in June. Guess who doesn't have any games in June this year? Hey. But yeah, it's that was all happening around this time and leading to this revolution. I don't know if revolution is the right word, but this change in how we tell stories and the perspective from which we tell stories. And it's less about the black and white, good and evil morality plays, and more about shades of gray and is she evil or are you just reading propaganda? Did she do something bad, but did she do it for a good reason, like giving the monkeys their wings? Chistery just wanted to fly, and she didn't know that spell would cause him pain, but it gave him what he wanted.
When she and Fiyero are having a conversation, because she's trying to keep him out of the loop to keep him safe, and so they're having a conversation, and it's basically, how can a bird feed its young if it has no consciousness of before and after? A conscience is only consciousness in another dimension, the dimension of time. What you call conscience, I prefer to call instinct. Birds feed their young without understanding why, without weeping about how all that is born must die, sob, sob. I do my work with a similar motivation, the movement in the gut toward food, fairness, and safety. I am a pack animal wheeling with the herd, that's all. I'm a forgettable leaf on a tree. Since your work is terrorism, that's the most extreme argument for crime I've ever heard. And then they go on, they continue until later. What is worse, Fiyero, suppressing the idea of personhood or suppressing, through torture and incarceration and starvation, real living persons? Look, would you worry about saving one precious sentimental portrait in a museum of fine arts when the city around you is on fire and real people are burning to death? So basically, the idea that Elphaba uses to kind of justify her ends, or herself as a means to an end, is that I'm protecting other people. But Fiyero is pointing out, would you need to protect other people if you weren't doing what you were doing, you know? And it's that kind of constant push-pull tug of, are you evil? Are you good? If you're looking for the greater good, is it really the greater good, or is it just...
It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark conundrum. If Indiana Jones does nothing, the Nazis don't get the Ark. You know? Like, if she were to just stop, what would happen? Well, animals would probably be genocided. But yeah, which, something that surprised me from this was that area of the story, because I didn't know anything about the animal stuff. I honestly didn't know much about the plot of this at all, even though I knew a lot of the songs.
So, in the book, Dr. Dilliman straight up gets murdered.
That's sad.
And it's because he has had a breakthrough and discovered, essentially, humans, animals with a lowercase a, and animals with an uppercase a, are not different at the cellular level. So the only explanation is magic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so the wizard and Madame Morrible have him killed because they don't want that getting out. Because if we're all the same stuff, then what's going to stop you from doing this to me later?
Yep.
And eventually Elphaba proves his theory by teaching Chistery how to talk and turning him into an animal with a capital A, as opposed to an animal with a lowercase a.
Oh, that's what that meant when he talked at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't get why he didn't talk before.
Yeah,
I believe what I yelled at the screen was, "Oh, you could talk, you asshole."
She teaches him how to talk, basically. And she gets him as a baby and teaches him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad that we had a conversation about this devoid of the context of The Wizard of Oz, because I think there's a lot of good in this story. There's some good metaphor going on. It's still rare 30 years later to have a story where the protagonist is a villain and you see that they're being labeled a terrorist, but they're not actually, because you see why they're doing what they're doing, and they're also, like, actively... Like, she actively doesn't cause harm to anybody. When she, like, fucks up the building of the yellow brick road, like, the worst that happens is some people get covered in paint.
Yeah, she...
I don't know what she does in the book. I assume she's got a body count in the book.
So, she doesn't. That's actually the thing. She's supposed to assassinate Madame Morrible. But... the way she's supposed to do it is essentially on Christmas Eve, Madame Morrible is going to be going to this, like, big gala event, but there happens to be a children's school next to the event, and a bunch of children come out and essentially surround Madame Morrible, and she will not do anything that causes harm to the children. So she fails to assassinate her. And that's what leads to, you know, Fiyero getting killed, and then her going into the monastery, or the nunnery.
There's Christmas in Oz?
It's called Lorelyn Miss, but...
Okay. I was like, are we implying
there is not...
that our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, was also visited Oz at some point?
No.
Okay.
Essentially, the mythology...
Life Day.
Yes, the mythology is that the Fairy Queen Lurleen had an assistant that basically, around this time, threw presents at children.
Okay. Sorry, you shook me with the fucking mention of Christmas. I got in my head now that, like, okay, so...
There is not...
So Mary was an Ozian that got fucked by Joseph, who was from Earth, and then Jesus came out magic, and that's how... Like,
by that metaphor, Elphaba's kind of Jesus.
I'm gonna add to the wheel, Jesus of Oz.
I mean, by that metaphor, a person comes from a different world.
Oh, Elphaba's Jesus.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
They do celebrate her death. Not her birth, though.
And Easter is coming up.
But funny enough, her younger brother ends up becoming the emperor after the wizard gets deposed. I
thought that was the Scarecrow. Sorry, getting ahead of myself again.
I haven't read the sequels. I just...
You know what? I think that's a good enough segue. So, like I said before, I'm glad we talked about this for over an hour without talking about the source material for the source material, The Wizard of Oz. Because, like I said, I think there's some good story happening here. It's a well-constructed story structure with some interesting characters, some good developments, and some plot twists.
He dug into the mythology, because he references characters that are not in The Wizard of Oz.
That's the thing. Let's now introduce the mythology. Let's bring back in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Let's bring in the 39 Judy Garland, which was the inspiration for the musical version of Wicked, and some visual elements of the films. I mentioned before that one of the themes that we picked out that is in both of them is that you as a person are not defined by what other people say you are. And that is something that I like to grab onto in the older ones, the original adaptations, because it's more interesting to me than the There's No Place Like Home, right? Now, we already pointed out that it's different in the book, but oh my god, having Bach be the Tin Man and having Fiyero be the Scarecrow really fucking sells out that original. Really fucking truly sells out the original.
So is Fiyero the Scarecrow, or is he just a Scarecrow?
He is the titular Scarecrow.
Okay. Because, I mean, obviously...
Titular?
Bach is the Tin Man. That's pretty clear. I just wasn't sure if it was actually...
When he gets taken... He basically sacrifices himself for Elphaba.
Yes.
So...
She does some magic, has a banger song about it.
So here's what happens. Morrible summons the cyclone that drops Dorothy on Oz, killing Nessa.
Yes.
Who, at least in the film, is not once referred to as a Wicked Witch of the East.
So I will say that is very different in the book. She's a fucking monster. She is a religious fanatic.
She does do some, like, she includes munchkins in the no travel on train law alongside animals. Yeah. And there is some, like, there's like one scene of her ratifying some bad government shit. And Bach kind of, like, is pissed off at her for that. Yeah, she's a religious fanatic that doesn't see that her fanaticism is a problem.
And yeah, there is supporting evidence for her being a monster.
Okay. So, I guess what the point I want to make here is I did not know. I thought the entire musical took place years before the events of the 39 movie. In my head, it was always they were friends, and then shit happened, and in the second act of the musical, because I knew the first act ended at Defying Gravity, I assumed that Elphaba, like, turned evil, and Glinda had to fight her off, and it's how they, like, broke up, like, what happened with them that caused this friction that ended up with this, you know, Ozian Civil War. And imagine my surprise when Morrible summons fucking Dorothy, drops a house on a woman who's never been called the Wicked Witch of the East. Glinda, who canonically has not a magical cell in her body, yet is the one who transfers the magic shoes to Dorothy's feet in the film. So that's never explained how the shoes get there in this movie. And Dorothy, you know, trounces off down the yellow brick road. And while she's, you know, as we know, meeting the Scarecrow in her story as it continues, we see Fiyero get grabbed by guards, and Elphaba runs off to her place. She sings that fucking banger, No Good Deed Goes Unpunished.
Just called No Good Deed.
Yeah, well, whatever. I wasn't looking at the fucking playbill while I was watching the movie here. And she's casting the spell, and you see, at least in the film version, you see him turning into a scarecrow.
Okay.
As they take him out to the fields to hang him on the post. Which means that in the canon of this film, Dorothy, as she and Toto are skipping down the yellow brick road for maybe 20 minutes before they meet their first friend, they see a group of men in green drag a man kicking and screaming, and then she can hear him cry out in pain as they beat him violently until he turns into a scarecrow. And when she gets there, he has no memory of this and thinks he's been there for fucking years. Moving on, we see Elphaba in Oz in the background while Dorothy is getting her orders to go kill her. And we see from Oz's Emerald Tower, Scarecrow, Dorothy, and the Cowardly Lion, who, we should mention, was freed from captivity by Elphaba. Although, they did have a line in there where he said, "She took me from the only home I ever knew and put me out into the wilderness." He didn't understand because he was too young. But we see our cast of characters, and Bach the Tin Man, because he's been turned into tin at this point, drops her fucking name, like, expresses that he has a history with this one, but, like, tries to hide it, and he's like, "I will kill the Wicked Witch of the West, we will get her." And I recall a lot of scenes of a Tin Man who had been rusted in place for years, and literally did not have time between turning into tin and having the scene to rust in this film. And then we get to, you know, the climactic moment, where Glinda's also, like, right there, and she's like, "It'll be fine," and Elphaba's like, "I got this, ho," and then they have probably the best scene of the movie, which is for good. And then Glinda watches from, like, through a keyhole in another room as Dorothy grabs a bucket of water and splashes it on the witch to kill her. Even though she explicitly stated in the 39, she had no idea that would happen. And she only threw the water because the Scarecrow was on fire. The Scarecrow, who was not in the room at this time and actually stays behind here to get Elphaba out of her trapdoor because it's Fiyero, makes no fucking sense. Also, how does anyone know that she will melt from the water? Because it's kind of like, it seems like it could be one of those things that's rumor and innuendo, because it's in like one of those group songs where all the Munchkins, I think it's the beginning of Act 2, all the Munchkins are singing about how, like, "Oh, I heard water will melt her like jet fuel can't do steel beams." And is that why they did that? Is that why she survived it? Was it 9/11 truthing? Anyway.
No.
Because water can't melt witches. So it's all like, it's rumor and innuendo, and you see her get splashed, but it doesn't really kill her, because it's not actually the thing. Except, like, earlier in the movie, it rains, and Morrible is so quick to get an umbrella up to protect Elphaba, because water will make her melt, and she makes the rain go away. Which, also, if she can control the weather, which seems to be the one thing she can actually do, and then she's out to get Elphaba, why doesn't she just make it rain for a while? Because, at least in her mind, she's established that she thinks water will make her melt.
But then that would solve the Great Drought.
Is it because water will make her melt too? Is she the one allergic to water, and she just applies it to all sorcerers?
Maybe.
I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense in the context of the 39. Doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Oh, I missed a spot. So, like, we see, canonically, Scarecrow being given a head full of bran and needles, and, you know, the right to run Oz. Even though he's nowhere to be found when that should be happening in this movie, and he's in fact saving Elphaba and running off together into the fucking desert. And we do see...
Well, hey, at least there's no water in the desert.
And in the background, we do see Oz getting in his balloon and floating off, even though at the end of the first film, we see that very same balloon catch fire and explode. My question is, how does Dorothy get home in Wicked? Glinda knows nothing about those shoes. How does she know that clicking the heels together will send her home?
Making it up?
Well, she was fucking lucky. I just, like, so much of this just betrayed... Like, because now, if I watch the 39, the whole time, I'm like, Elphaba, why are you attacking the Scarecrow with fire multiple times? That's your boyfriend. You love him. You know what I mean? It completely sells out those characters. And I get that the book can't do that because those characters aren't those characters in the book. That's absolutely something they added into the movie because fan service. Slim shit down.
I was just checking here. Even Maguire hand waves how Dorothy gets out of Oz.
Oh, he also just...
He hand waves it. He basically turns her into a myth. And also, apparently, it is strongly implied that the wizard did in fact fuck Melina, Elphaba's mom. So she could be his kid.
It's not implied. It is young Jeff Goldblum in the... I'm
saying in the book.
I know, I'm saying in the movie. It is absolutely...
de-aged
Goldblum. It is super text. It is there. The whole time when Elphaba and Fiyero are fucking is when she should be flying over the Emerald City saying, "Surrender, Dorothy."
Probably.
All of the good in the original that personally I discovered as we talked through it over the last 2 episodes, I felt was completely sold out by some of those decisions and just really pissed me off.
So the end of the novel is really like, it's hand wavy, but it's also it carries on the tradition that's throughout the novel, which is basically like the victor gets to write the story. Mm-hmm. And so it's very like, people don't remember things correctly or they don't believe things. Like, he even says that Dorothy's story of melting the witch is not believed. It's thought that she did it some other way and she was just being modest about it. So the citizens of Oz just like straight up don't believe her. And so they invent other methods of doing it, of how she did it. Some are like, oh, she's a murderer. Some are like, oh, she's a savior. And it's the whole energy of, it doesn't matter what actually happened. What matters is what people believe.
Yeah. Which, like, it's that theme is there in this film. It's just pulling specifically imagery from the 39, which they did. It's the same... Was it Gingham Jess?
Yeah.
From the 39, like, the Tin Man and Scarecrow designs are very similar. The Lion's not, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But when you're pulling from the 39, then, like, the source of that one is it was all a dream. Which means none of that. This makes even less sense, because all of this happened in Dorothy's head.
Yeah.
Like, why is it so different from what she dreamt in 1939 in the background? You know what I mean? It really does not click with me.
Yeah.
And really, actually, it made me actually upset.
I know, I could hear you as I was cooking dinner.
That wasn't the only thing that was making me upset.
You wanna go into your other problems?
Are we gonna open it up to I get to rant about the movie now?
We're gonna open it up to you get to rant about the movie, because you've started hedging into that territory.
Okay.
You've made some insurrectionary incursions.
So this is just gonna be my do you recommend it section, because I'm not gonna repeat this later.
Okay.
The casting of this film, I thought, was incredible. Ariana Grande is a wonderful Glinda. And Cynthia Erivo was spectacular as Elphaba. Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Yeoh, inspired choices, so much fun to watch. Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero. I was horned up. The supporting cast, I have nothing bad to say about a single performance in this. I thought they were all spectacular, except for one minor moment, which I'll get to. I thought the art design was also very intriguing. The designs of the sets were unique. There was stuff I feel like I hadn't seen before in some of the designs. And I'm thinking specifically to the Dancing Through Life sequence, where they're in the library, and there are bookshelves that are cylinders on their side with a bar between it. And then there are people sitting on the bars and like flipping switches, and the whole cylinder is rotating around them, and they're pulling books off of it. And then when they go into that dance number, these things are spinning, and people are doing Cirque du Soleil shit on these horizontal bars that are also spinning and sliding around the cylinders and doing ducks and jumps and stuff. And it was very, very interesting to look at visually. Really cool design. And I've already mentioned earlier, I think the music in this musical is top tier, especially for that era of Broadway. Is it the best Broadway ever produced? Probably not. Is it very good? Yes.
Even the specific to the movie songs?
Even those were pretty... I mean, it's the same people that wrote them. I don't remember them as well, but it's because I've only heard them once. But I had Dancing Through Life and Defying Gravity in my head for 3-4 days now. Because they're fucking earworms. However, the execution of some of these things left something to be desired. These big, elaborate sets that were designed. Notice I used the word designed, because would it have been nice if they had been built? And I don't know if it was color correction, or if just that much of the sets were actually CG, or what, but everything just gave a sheen of fake, which I never got from the 39. The only times where I saw that was fake was because like, oh, I know how they did this practically, and even then, that's still not fake. It felt very computer generated, or at very least computer enhanced. And a lot of these sets had big open windows in the background. And someone got it in their head that there's a great line towards the end of Defying Gravity, look to the western sky. And this chucklefuck heard, western sky, that's where sun sets. I'm gonna make sure that this audience gets to look toward the western sky. A lot. Like twice, 3 times a scene. And I'm going to put the fucking sun in the background of my shots. And so often, I think the first time I noticed it was in Dancing Through Life. It probably happened earlier. But once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. Because the camera would pan, and all of a sudden, all of the characters, you can't see their faces, and you're blinded by the fucking sun.
The worst part of driving home at like 5 p.m. when the sun is setting and it's just getting right in your eyes, just this movie.
Yeah. Like, there is an aspect of lighting design called backlighting. And it's actually used a lot on black actors. Because it helps, especially if you have darker backgrounds, it helps silhouette the body from the background. They do it with white actors as well. This is something I actually learned in theater school, that you're going to have a light usually above and at an angle, and then a light lower at an angle from a different angle to light the front so that all of the visual features are visible. And then you're going to have a light on the floor behind them. And depending on how you do it, and if you want to like emphasize certain characters, you can make it a little brighter and it looks like they're almost glowing, or you make it a little dimmer just so that you can see the person's silhouette up against the background. It's the same reason why most animation will have a black line around the edge of the character. Some animation doesn't. I know like Samurai Jack was famous for that, not having that when it came out.
But that's like a choice.
But that's it's a specific choice. Same reason why you do that in animation, you do that in film, and it's to, separate the subject of your shot in framing from the background of the shot. What you don't do is put that light source uninterrupted between itself and your lens. You put the body there for that to work. If you don't do that, you blow out the fucking aperture of your lens, and all you see is that bright fucking light, and you can't see the actors' faces. And this happens again, and again, and again, and again, and again throughout these 2 films. And I'm sure the effect wasn't as bad in cinemas, because on a projection screen, the light source is behind the audience. But on, a nice, bright LED TV in my home, which is where, unfortunately, most people watch movies these days, and where I happened to be to watch this one, because I didn't want to pay money for it, it made my TV so bright, I was that fucking Trump looking at the eclipse meme for 5 hours. I had to squint to watch this movie.
I feel like that's another thing you can talk about is the length.
Did they need to take a 2.5-hour musical and stretch it to 5.5 hours? No, they did not. And going into it, I knew this was going to be long. I knew this was going to be a slog. I assumed they would expand upon the scenes between the songs, what's called the book in musical theater, the lines said that aren't sung. I assumed they were going to add scenes there, and that's a lot of what they did. However, they added about 14 minutes in a place they should not have added that much time. And that is between the first note and the final note of one of the best songs in recent musical theater history, Defying Gravity, which is the climax of part 1, or Wicked, or whatever you want to call that first movie. I lost count of how many times between verse and chorus, or between line and line while they were performing that song, the music slowed down. And in fact, the music of Defying Gravity stopped, and a very mediocre score kicked in, so that a scene could happen. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm listening to a song that I like, let me even make it a little bit more specific and more relevant to here. When I hear a new cover of a song that I like, what I don't want to have happen is halfway through the cover, the musician stops singing, and someone explains to me why a lady has a cape. We did not need Defying fucking Gravity paused so that Glinda could say a nice word and say, "Oh, you look cold, Elphaba," and grab her iconic cape, I say in gigantic scare quotes, because I never once thought about the witch's fucking cape until they paused the fucking movie to show her, "Oh, you look cold, let me wrap this random blanket around you, and now it's your iconic cape." I can forgive the ugly hat, but the cape is where I draw the fucking line.
So, what I think they were trying to ape here, and what they failed to do, is in the musical, and I'm saying this because I've seen it and you haven't, the act break ends with her, of course, singing Defying Gravity and being drawn upwards on, I assume, wires. And her cape billows out around her and covers the rest of the stage, so that by the time the song ends, it's just the spotlight on her, dramatic pause, and then lights go out and everything ends.
That's really cool.
On a stage.
That is really cool. And I bet what made that hit extra hard is that that song wasn't paused in the stage musical so that Glinda could give her a cape and then hook the wires up. I'm pretty sure Kristen Chenoweth wasn't rigging that shit.
It was an odd choice. Because they didn't even have her cape cover the full screen.
And the most egregious part, that wasn't even the worst part of them butchering this song. The most iconic part of the song, I mean, and this is again coming from somebody who grew up on the original Broadway cast recording, like dozens of other theater kids my age did. And that vocal run that Idina Menzel does at the end of that song is iconic. And when I'm listening to a cover of a song that I like, and I get to iconic moments, I'm like, oh, how are they going to do this? Unfortunately, watching this, I already knew the vocal run she was going to hit, because it was in every fucking trailer and TV spot when this was being advertised 2 years ago. Not only did I already know, but they added an extra, 2 measures of silence before she hit the vocal run in the movie, as if to say, hey audience, you're never gonna guess what she's gonna do, and it's a slightly less interesting version of the original that you've already heard 20 times. What the actual flaming fuck? Music is built around, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, music is built around math. And yes, I understand jazz exists, but also math rock exists, and both are valid forms of the art. But what makes a lot of music work is that there's timing to it, and it's to a certain beat. And there are times when you can change that to make a point and whatnot, but when a timing works, it works usually for a reason, and that reason is that timing. So the beat between her hitting that vocal run in the original cast recording, if it's 2 measures shorter, it hits different because it's 2 measures shorter, and in my opinion, it hits better. And so much of that song builds on itself. And it's really hard to have a song build on itself when it changes to a different song every 35 seconds. Because that score, there's something also in musical theater, if you are not aware, called vamping. And I've done plays where there are bits of dialogue between verses in a song. And there is a 4-bar or 8-bar section of music that is labeled vamp. And it's repeat until this cue line, and then you move to the next section of the song. And that's what the musicians do in the background. And what it does is it keeps the energy the same on the stage musical. The audience is still clued into the song that they're hearing. They remember they're in a number. And they even do that at like the end. If there's the big note at the end and then the applause break, there's a little bit of a vamp, and then you like play the song out, or there's an outro to play the song out to move on to the next scene. That is built into musical theater. Why the fuck did they not just write a vamp part for Defying Gravity for those? If you're gonna have to tell me how she got the cape, because I was dying to know, at the very fucking least, write a vamp part for Defying Gravity to go behind that scene that isn't a completely different and worse score. I will give them credit for good. The similarly climactic song of the second act, or part 2, nope, not called that anymore, For Good, they did not cut. They barely edited. Most of that was just a 2-shot on Glinda and Elphaba as they sang together. And oh my god, that was so much more emotionally fulfilling than Defying Gravity, which should have been so much better than it was. They learned the lesson, but oh, what a costly way to learn it.
Something interesting is that we talked about The Wiz, which is also a retelling involving someone known for powerhouse vocals and a pop star. And it's a little different because Diana Ross is also like a pop star, but she was still known for powerhouse vocals. It felt like they had to work so hard to bring Ariana Grande forward in the mix to match with Cynthia Erivo.
And a lot of those harmonies were just not mixed well in this rendition of Defying Gravity. I think some of them were changed. If I recall, one of my favorite harmonies towards the end is just not a harmony anymore.
Yep.
And I think they changed a harmony to a different line of the song.
Yeah.
And again, going back to like the song was written in a specific way, because things like that, when they're singing in tandem, it's because they're on the same page. When they're singing in harmony, it's because the sum is greater than the parts. And when they're singing counterpoint, when Elphaba's singing one line and Glinda's singing a different line, they're at odds. That's the thematic reason to do that in musical theater. And, let's just change it for reasons. Fuck you. What gives you the fucking right? Although I'm pretty sure Schwartz was involved and maybe he wanted to for reasons that are his own. And you know what? That's fine. But you should also sue that editor for butchering one of your best songs.
Not to cut this rant short, but
it's over.
I wanted to push you on to your next rant, which was that the reason that For Good was so impactful is because it was 2 people emoting at each other.
Just letting the characters act. Letting them act through their song. And
it was not CG.
Nope, it was 2 actors singing at the backgrounds.
Yeah.
And a lot of Defying Gravity was, I think they did some wire work on green screen sets, because it didn't look like her flying was digital stunt people. Yeah. It looked like a physical stunt person with a lot of CG editing. But yeah, her climactic moment, the flying into the screen at the end was, very CG.
I'm trying to lead you into ranting about the animals.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for telling me where to go. So, I mentioned earlier that they all aped the designs from the 1939 film, except the Cowardly Lion. And I've made it clear what I think they should do to fix Defying Gravity. Here's how I think they could have made this movie twice as good with one simple change. Every non-animated version of this that we watched had something in common. And I'm including the Muppets version in here for reasons that will make sense once you hear it, because for the intents and purposes of this conversation, Muppets are people.
Muppet rights.
Every version of the Cowardly Lion was played by a dude in a suit. You had Bert Lahr in that suit that was made out of actual lion fur. You had Fozzie Bear in a little lion onesie. You had, who the fuck played him in...
The Wiz?
In The Wiz. Something Ross. Todd Ross?
think that sounds right. Hang on.
You had Mr. Ross play him in The Wiz, and again, dude in a lion costume. And that was just the original Wizard of Oz, or The Wiz, you know, where you do it in 1939 because how else are you going to do it? You do it in 1978 because how else are you going to do it? Put the dude in the costume. The animals weren't even the point of The Wizard of Oz. But the plot revolves around how our main protagonist, unlike people around her, view animals as equals to herself. And it's a lot harder for an audience to empathize with Elphaba in that moment when the animals have no soul because they are computer generated, dead behind the eyes, talking animals. If you had Peter Dinklage in a cheap goat costume, I would be more emotionally invested in Dr. Dillicuddy. I'd probably remember his name. If fucking Chistery was a dude in a monkey suit, I might have cried the first time he talked. Because there would have been some life behind his eyes in that moment where he's evolving from animal lowercase to animal uppercase. The whole plot of the movie revolved around the humanity, for lack of a better term, of these animals. And the movie itself did not give them that.
So, something that I think is interesting is the Cowardly Lion in the novel. It's not specifically Elphaba that speaks up for him. Because what's happening is they have this new person who's come in to do this lecture. And he's talking about what the difference is between animals and humans. And he tries something with magic and it fucks up. Then he wheels in the lion and he starts talking about, and like the lion is visibly distressed and Elphaba is like, hey, where's its mother? The lion is too young to be away from its mother. And the doctor is going on and on about how, you can't tell if it's an animal or a capital A animal at this point yet because it wouldn't have learned how to speak anyway. Mm. And so he brings out a fucking hammer and is like, so if we remove the section of the brain, we can find out. And the entire class is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's not just Elphaba. She's the first one, but the whole class is horrified when he's going to do surgery, generously described, on this animal.
Again, the film fucking sells that out, because it's literally just Elphaba and Fiyero.
Yeah.
Just them. Like, Glinda does the whole speech at the train station where she drops the "guh" in honor of the goat.
But that's because she's trying to get Fiyero.
Exactly. She's trying to, like, play a role, you know? Because that's all she does until, like, the very end of the film is play a role. And even at the end of the film, she's playing a role for good. Yuck, yuck. But, like, that's something that also drove me crazy. Was like, oh, she's wicked, she's evil. Everyone literally singing in unison about how evil this witch is. And all she's doing is showing up, going like, no, they're animals. Why are we being mean to them? You're telling me no one in Oz also agrees? Like, yeah, animals are fucking great. I love animals. They're fucking great.
Oz is populated by Christy Gnomes.
Right? She's out there shooting puppies in gravel pits. I had the same thought, actually, when she gets to Shiz. Because everyone else to a T is horrified and disgusted by her and thinks she's a freak and a weirdo. Not one dude's into it. Not one guy until Fiyero is like, I want to see them green titties, though.
So, again, a more minor change is that Shiz is a women's college. It is just women. And they're also, it's not super clear. It's more like, it's not totally clear how old they are. Like, they're probably 16, 17, 18, but it might be more of like a finishing school type college as opposed to a college.
Oh, yeah, late teens when no one is horny.
Hang on, I'm getting there. And it's also like, you have this old school vibe of...
Sorry, I looked over at the IMDb and there's a still and the sun is fucking blinding me in the middle of the still.
You have, like, they have nursemaids. And it's very, like, 1800s Regency romance where, like, they have people that are supposed to mind them and, like, you're not supposed to be alone with the opposite sex, etc., etc.
Is that who Fufu and Shin Shin are?
No. Fanny and Shen Shen. And yes, those are their actual names.
See, I'm not sure in the film which of them was the fat girl and which of them was the Asian guy, and I'm also not sure which name would be worse for either of them.
So, when Elphaba shows up, the thing that everyone is grossed out by and creeped out by. It's, yes, the fact that she's green, but it's also the fact that she dresses like a pauper because, you know, her father's a fucking priest, so he doesn't give a shit about worldly things. And she also has spent to this...
God, sure would have been nice if that was explained in the movie. Because her dad being a governor and all, you think she could afford something other than witch clothing.
Her grandfather is the eminent Throp, which is why Nessa becomes powerful in the book, because her grandfather is essentially the like governor of the territory. Their dad, I'm pretty sure he survives the book. It's like he shows up here and there, but he's like not super important, except for being a huge asshole in the first act. But it's more about how Elphaba herself thinks she's off-putting. And so the reason that she eventually ends up being able to bone Fiyero is that she's kind of grown up a little bit and she's more accepting of her own flaws and shortcomings, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a long-winded explanation of why she's off-putting in the book as opposed to the movie where it's just like, she's green. And like, yes, obviously everyone is shocked that she's green, but it's more than that. It's her whole bearing. She also has an entire year without Nessa.
I would have preferred that to the origin of her fucking cape. Just gonna go through my notes to see if I missed anything. I knew we were off to a bad start when the Universal Studios logo was like the Art Deco one from like the 30s and 40s. Except A, big, in modern text, a Comcast company at the bottom. And B, what does this have to do with Universal Pictures in the 30s and 40s? The Wizard of Oz was MGM.
It's fine, don't worry about
Different
it.
studio. Even now, you still don't own them.
You don't own me. Different bad movie.
I thought her being green was a punishment for adultery, which was funny for me.
Kind of.
Dr. Dillamond is absolutely fucking with Glinda because he has no problem pronouncing any other word.
I will say in the book it is specified that she is being a bitch about it because she's being xenophobic about it. Because it's the old, when he can't say her name right, she says it's the old Gilliganese pronunciation, if you please.
Ah, yes. She was definitely very bigoted about it in the film still.
Yeah.
It was played more for laughs, and she was the butt of the joke. A woman's rage is the source of all magic. He got something right there. Also, why most of your barbarian characters also learn spells.
Listen, I will say that is strongly implied. Like, that's one of the things that they're debating theologically in the book, is you have the unnamed god who's basically like God. You've got the pleasure faith or the TikTok faith, and then you've got the old Lurlanism, which is basically like fairy hedonism. And then you have the secret Cumbric witch, who is probably the one who gave everyone all the magic, but no one really knows who she is. And that's like the constant debate is the cover. I'm going to show you the cover art. This is actually a painting in the book, not of Elphaba. Obviously, for the book, it is Elphaba, but this is basically an icon of the Cumbric witch that Bach discovers in a book. And it is strongly implied that it's like the only extant version because the wizard couldn't find it. And it's basically the equivalent of like a creation myth.
Another issue that I just remembered. There's a scene in which she stumbles across herds of animals going into a hole underneath the yellow brick road to escape Oz. And our Wicked Witch of the West does her best to convince them to stay. Bitch, they are being persecuted to the point of being caged and killed. Why are you trying to make them stay? Would you ask the Jews in Poland in the 30s to stay? I sure fucking wouldn't. It didn't help that I watched Schindler's List the morning I watched the first one, and I would rather watch Schindler's List again.
Ooh.
Because that's a good movie.
It's also shorter.
Then the whole, yeah. You remember the time in Defying Gravity, the one time they paused it as she cast another spell to learn to fly and just, gave the power to the broomstick and the broomstick flew? Yeah. And she needs the broomstick to fly? Well, when she and Fiyero fuck, she flies without it.
Something. Doesn't she do magic when she has a lot of emotion, like when she's emotionally distraught? Like when they're pushing Nessa?
Is horny flight different from broomstick flight?
Yes. Well, no, I'm just saying that point. I'm pointing out another, like, I don't want to say plot hole, but, like, The whole reason she gets into shiz in the movie is because they're, like, wheeling Nessa, and they're, like, being a little rough with her, and so she, like...
Yeah, like, she has, like, big emotional outbursts, and then magic happens.
Yeah.
Is what tends to happen.
Again, the explanation in the book is that she doesn't know she's magical until it's too late. Like, she doesn't know she's magical until, basically, like, the last 100 pages.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah. Every magic thing that happens around her is explainable by other circumstances. She doesn't... We can tell as the audience that she's doing magic, but it's not till she meets an elephant goddess in the desert that she realizes that she has magic.
So the whole book minus the last 100 pages is Harry Potter making the glass disappear at the zoo?
Kinda, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I actually prefer the film version of that better.
She kills a dude with bees and doesn't know she did it.
That's a good shout out. That's a good shout out. Speaking of shiz, there's a scene where, in the second one, where Glinda is startled by Elphaba and goes, "Oh, shiz. Who the fuck says the name of their school when startled? I have never turned a corner," and then you went, "Oh, CalArts."
Maybe I will. That would be very funny.
Never in traffic has someone pulled in front of me and hit the brakes. Harvard Law. You know, nothing. I was so fucking annoyed by the language stuff they were doing. They picked up on, Mark pointed this out too, because he and I watched them at the same time. He was texting me his thoughts as well. And for some reason in the second one, they all start saying clock tick instead of second. And it's really clunky. And they do it like 4 times. And it was annoying the first time.
I believe that has roots in the novel in terms of, like, trying clumsily to pull in the TikTok faith. I feel like they kind of get rid of a lot of the mechanical... They really trim down the extraneous shit that's happening. The extraneous political shit.
They ripped off the last scene in The Dark Knight when she's like, oh, they need a villain. Well, I guess The Dark Knight ripped off the musical, huh? Except, girl, Batman, you are not. She's not being persecuted by the people she's trying to help. She's being persecuted by people who don't want her helping other people, third parties. A little bit different. Also, Glinda doesn't die, so Two-Face she is not. She just takes the credit for shit she never did.
Yeah.
And all the talk about, like, the wizard needs to own up to his failures, she never owns up to hers.
Yeah, she doesn't need to. She's pretty.
And I was really disappointed that in the end she gets the boy and lives.
Yeah, there's... So, I mean...
Like, again, completely sells out the fucking Dorothy Scarecrow story.
In the life of a witch, there is no after. In the ever after of a witch, there is no happily. In the story of a witch, there is no afterward. Of the part that is beyond the life story, beyond the story of the life there is, alas, or perhaps thank mercy, no telling. She was dead and gone, and all that was left of her was the carapace of her reputation for malice. She kills a child. By accident. Possibly. It's one of those things where the people around her that do her ill kind of sort of end up dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it goes back to that cost of magic.
Yeah.
It just so happens she manages to direct the cost in a certain way.
I got sidetracked a little bit. This was nominated for so many Oscars.
It was. I don't think it won...
It won 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, it didn't win nearly as many as it was nominated for.
Nominated for Best Picture. Cynthia Vairo and Ariana Grande were both nominated. Cynthia for Best Actress and Ariana for Supporting. It won Costume Design. Fine. Excellent costume design. Those costumes were so designed, and they were very costume. The most costume design is what it won.
Wait, is this like the opposite? So you know how we were complaining about how you can't see TV anymore? Is this like the exact opposite of that, where they're like, here is the light source. We're putting the light source in the frame.
I don't know what the fuck that was. Nominated for Best Film Editing, hard disagree. Makeup and hairstyling, valid nom. Production design, it won. Again, I thought the design was really interesting. Original score got nominated, which I guess Schwartz had something to do. It was John Powell and Stephen Schwartz, so I guess he had something to do with the score of it. But there was barely any score. I feel like it got nominated for the songs, which are not score. I think technically they're licensed songs and therefore not valid for awards. But the Academy's its own shit. Nominated for Best Sound and Best Visual Effects. I disagree with visual effects. Because I could just tell everything was covered in... most visual effects, maybe. I feel like a lot of those categories, voters get confused and think best means most.
Yeah.
Most editing. Look how many times they cut chunks out of this song.
In that case, Cats would have won.
Yeah, most editing. The sequel got 0 nominations.
Oof.
I'm starting to regain some faith in the Academy. I haven't watched the Oscars in years because I just don't care about those old white men's opinions anymore.
Since you're already looking at it, go ahead and look up the director and some other things he's done.
Director was John M. Chu. Okay, Step Up 2, Step Up 3, Bieber's Never Say Never, G.I. Joe Retaliation, the better G.I. Joe movie, another Step Up, Gem and the Holograms, Now You See Me 2, okay, Dance Camp, Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights. I loved In the Heights.
I know, that's why when I saw that, I was like, huh, interesting.
But In the Heights... Because there was no magical realism, or there was no magic to it. It was, at best, magical realism.
Yeah.
It worked really well as a screen musical. I don't remember being blinded by In the Heights.
Yeah, I just remember you really enjoying it.
Yeah, and a lot of that was also the music, just being just absolute vibes. And that whole movie was like 2 hours and 20. Yeah. Not the first act. He's also doing, Oh, the Places You'll Go. In 2028.
They're turning that into a movie? Oh, God.
The first to join the cast have been Ariana Grande and Josh Gad.
Oh, boy, that's going to be unbearable.
Can't wait to cover that on the podcast in 3 years.
Hey, it'll be easy.
It'll be easy for you, motherfucker.
Somehow they're going to turn it into a 7-movie series. So... I feel like you've gotten all of your energy out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask, would you recommend either of these movies?
No, do you recommend the book?
If you go into it with the understanding that this is explicitly for adults in a way that The Wizard of Oz is explicitly for children, you will have a good time. It is a little unforgiving in terms of... I don't want to say it's insincere, because that's not what I mean, but it's very, like, relentless in the darkness. Good things don't happen. Just for funsies, I have read Son of a Witch, I have not read A Lion Among Men, and I didn't even know Out of Oz existed until yesterday. It is relentless in the darkness of everything all the time. There are very few moments that are pockets of joy. So you need to be aware that you're not going to feel good after you read this. And Gregory Maguire does like to use a lot of complicated terms. Like, I had to do a lot of dictionary.com because he likes to make offhanded and sometimes esoteric references. And I would just be like, okay, from context, I understand what you're saying, but what are you literally saying? So just be prepared with, like, a dictionary nearby. It is also over 400 pages. I have the first edition.
You still probably read it faster than it took me to watch the 2 movies. Probably.
But, I mean, I don't remember enjoying it this much when I read it as a teenager. I did enjoy it a lot more this time. It is a little depressing in the current climate.
Yeah.
But... it's fun, and it's one of those things where when you pick up a reference that's from the extended mythology of Oz, it's enjoyable. A lot of female characters that are just delightfully and unrepentantly bitchy, which is unusual and fun.
I was gonna say, you do love a bitch.
I do. I recommend it. And also, I mean, the illustrations that are in it are very fun. And the first edition that I have, I mentioned that there's really cool artwork on the front and back, but it's very good.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's okay, I won't enjoy the next one.
Yeah, so, the next one. I mentioned earlier that as you're listening to this, Easter is coming up.
Yeah, sure is.
Hoorah. Easter, you know, maybe some people don't know. Easter, the holiday which celebrates, memorializes, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his resurrection 3 days later. Except it was really like 2 days later, because Friday to Sunday, you know. Math was hard back then.
They counted when it went dark as a whole day.
And I considered making you read the 4 Gospels and I watched The Passion of the Christ.
Neither of us would enjoy that.
Exactly. And I don't think our audience would enjoy that either. So instead, we're going to pay a visit to an old friend of ours, Martino Schidardi, Martin Scorsese's adaptation of The Last Temptation of Christ.
Is it at least less than 400 pages?
It looks like it's about 400 pages. I have seen this before, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it and doing some research into it and talking about it with you.
Is this the movie that they had to buy special underwear for Willem Dafoe?
Because his hog was too big? I believe so, yes.
God, we're talking about Jesus' dick.
Hey, when you cast Willem Dafoe to play Jesus, that dick is going to make an appearance. I mean, the third act of the movie, to spoil next week's episode, is Jesus is tempted by a woman and they, like, have a family and shit. It's a great movie. But that is next time. Until then, check the description for this podcast for our link tree. There you can find our social media accounts, our email address. If you would like to disagree with my opinions of Wicked, I will happily delete those emails immediately. You can also find our Ko-fi, however that's pronounced, account if you want to toss a couple of bucks our way. Everything goes towards keeping this podcast on the air. Also, wherever you're listening to this, give it a like, give it a comment, subscribe. Apparently that helps podcasts grow. I don't know. I don't care. But do that. And also check out our other podcast, The Treatment, a podcast about stories that we do with Mark Lucas, wherever you get your podcasts. Our most recent episode is the lost episode on Beowulf, where we retell the story of Beowulf, which we've also covered on this podcast. But we set it in a dystopic future wherein the corporations have taken over and built a city from the base of the Grand Canyon to the top. And what does Beowulf do in this city? Listen to that episode to find out. Spoilers, he kills Grendel and Grendel's mother and then loses to a dragon.
Spoilers for the oldest written story in human history.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about fuck you.
I spent so long trying to come up with rejoicification.
I prefer because.
because.
We're off to see because.